Bawi Grano Weeble, my fellow Transformer fans. Monkey here for another review, and today we'll be looking into the toy, background, and the character of Megatron. Now this won't be Beast Megatron, as Beast Wars follows the G1 continuity, and so he's not actually the Megatron, but all others will be mentioned in some way. But the main bio will follow the IDW continuity. Miner, poet, revolutionist, tyrant. Megatron can be described as these and more. Since his creation in 1984, he's been the main bad guy in the Transformers. But in recent years, that has changed, along with other things. Since 1984, Optimus Prime has been some sort of truck, but Megatron differs from this. In the G1 continuity, Megatron was a gun, but that was the only time he has been. Throughout the different shows and toy lines, Megatron has been a gun, several tanks, a truck, a jet, a race car, a helicopter, a couple of spaceships, and a robot with 9 modes, with one being a giant hand. So why does Megatron always have different modes? The answer covers the controversy over his original alt mode. In 1984, Hasbro released the first wave of Transformers, which were repaints of Diaclone and Microchange toys from Takara. Megatron's alt mode was a Walther P-38. This gun was so realistic that the toy was banned from certain countries, and so in 1986, Megatron was replaced by Galvatron, a robot that could still transform into a gun, but could also transform into an artillery piece as well, which the cartoon show used exclusively, and the gun mode was ignored. Since then, Megatron has only had a gun mode 4 times officially, but either scale or the garish colours made these toys more acceptable. In 2002, Dreamwave released War Within, which told of the tale of Optimus Prime's beginnings as leader of the Autobots. This is where we first see a G1 style Megatron showing his Cybertronian alt mode, and that being a tank. This makes sense to me, as there's no other imagery more tyrannical looking than a tank. Since 2010, Hasbro and Takara Tomy have been releasing Megatron in the Generations toy line with very little success. This is due to the toy design just not cutting it, which does include the 2014's Thrilling 30s Deluxe version. Anyone who personally knows me knows how I've been carping on for years about making Megatron a tank permanently, and that we should just abandon the gun mode entirely. It's definitely stemmed the amount of G1 style Megatron toys since 1984, compared to the plethora of Prime toys we've had and still get to this day. Stay tuned for a review of one soon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like they finally caught wind of that and have produced the first G1 style Megatron since 1984, and could potentially hit it home. And before you say it, no, I'm not including the Action Master toy of 1990. I present to you, ladies and gentlemen, with Transformers Generations Combiner Wars Leader Class Megatron. Get right from the bat off, he looks amazing. At long last, we have a Decepticon leader worthy of the title. Because let's face it, we've had G1 Megatron, which was really cool, but then the rest was meh, through and through, you know? G1 Megatron we just haven't had the pleasure of. The paint on this is phenomenal. Now, it showed, I had great vibes off this right from the get-go. It looked great. People were like, oh, it looks a bit dookie and all that, but it was fine. I thought, no, it's good. It's fine. It's just a wrong angle kind of thing. And I was right. I was happy to say that I am right. It's a wonderful, wonderful paint scheme we got here. I thought it was just going to be grey, but it's actually turned out like silver, metallic silver. Very, very good. With the 2 guns here, so we have a missile pod here and a machine gun here with the main cannon. Also, you'll notice that there's 4 ports on this. There's one here on the turret, and then 2 on the flank front. And there, well, you guys know what they are. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to present to you a tank on a tank. I love that. That's fucking cool. Of course, he can't move his turret anymore, but hey. Yes, some of you fans are going, what? Putting Armada minicons on the G1 bot? Well, it's not a G1, it's the same mold. It's looking cool. I mean, I like that one. That looks good at the back there. Yeah, badass. It's like G.I. Joe's big truck, the flying thing on the back. You know, you're all going to scream it now who it is when it comes off. There's little air support. Yeah, I like that. It's gleaming. Look at them. Wow! It's just awesome. You're going to have a missile launcher here now, so that's all good. But it flopped. So for what it's worth, some minicons. Comes with rubber tracks. Oh, so good. I mean, look at the tracks. It does roll. Okay, it does roll. You got to put a bit of pressure down, but yeah, it's good. It's good, man. The turret rotates. There's no elevation on the actual gun, but that's okay. It's half the battle, isn't it? Really good idea what they did here. Now, I'd like to point this out because I'm going to point it out later in robot mode. But you see this here? The front goes there like that. Now, I'd love to have seen another part that come down to block it out a bit and bulk it up. So it's kind of like, so it looks kind of like it comes down the side and then back up. So it's like that. So you got the top bit, that bit, and then 2 here, and then it's hollow. So it covers, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But you'll like it. You'll like the idea. So it comes down. So, but yeah, that's the vehicle. I mean, at the back here, you can see the fusion cannon rear. And yeah, it's very, very cool. I can't grumble at this. Let's do some comparisons. So here we have Megatron in tank mode alongside Voyager Motormaster, Deluxe Off-Road, and Legends Blackjack. And you can see these guys look pretty good. Yeah, these are upcoming ones. I'll be doing these reviews later. But just to get an idea of the scale that this thing is, I mean, it is pretty big. I mean, just look at the size of it compared to the Voyager alone. I mean, Motormaster's pretty big. I mean, he is the Optimus Prime mold, so you can see there how much bigger it is. It just looks a lot better, I think. A lot better. So I just wanted to show you how the turret works. It works on this drum. So when you actually move these arms in, it frees up this drum and you'll be able to rotate it. Very, very clever. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Leader class, Megatron. Oh, it's just wonderful toy. It looks good. It's sturdy. I mean, listen to the clicks. It's just... So he's got articulation in the head. He's got a ball joint. So he can look down. He can look up, left and right. He's got arm articulation. It actually comes out, so it comes up and then up again, and the hinge is up here, so it actually comes out quite. Look at that, hey? Can't grumble at that, can you? Now, just to point out that this goes from there to there. It has a hinge on it, which is really cool. I like that. So you're able to actually bend the elbow, okay, and move it out. Okay. He has waist articulation. You've got to push this up a bit, all the way up, to get it though. Yeah, there you go. There in the hips, there, rotation there, and the actual joint is there to rotate, but there's a piece of plastic that covers this part here, so you can see like more workings of what's going on inside, which is very cool. I like that. Doesn't have much of a bend, but hey, the guy's not going to be running, is he? He has a little articulation here, a little bit of a wobble. I think that's by design. And obviously, due to transformation, oh, those are the best clicks on the bot. So yeah, all around goodness. I do like this bad boy. And if you have Motormaster, you combine his weapons together for Menasor Sword, you could have Megatron wield it instead. Oh yeah! Something I wanted to point out is just my preference, but you can put those out so it looks a bit more like the IDW tank version, which I kind of like. It gets in the way of the thing, but it moves out of the way enough, so it's good for me. I'm happy with that. That's cool. So let's do some comparison with G1, shall we? And here we go with the comparison. I think their sword's almost as big. It's almost the same size. How cool is that? But yeah, there you go, people. Anyone who's interested. A little comparison of the heads. Very cool. Very cool. It's about time. The Decepticons have needed a decent Generations leader. We've had Shockwave, we've had Galvatron. Oh my god, Galvatron. Straxus. I can't remember what they called him in the thing. No, it is Straxus still, I think. But they were all deluxes. It just made no sense. It was like, come on, you need a big bot. Megatron, the Decepticon leader, needs to be a big bot. So they did brilliantly with this. Let's do some more comparisons. So here we have Megatron in robot mode with the other guys, the same guys before, but alongside that, we also have Superion, just to see the scale on between a leader class and a combined robot in the new Combiner Wars line. And you can see everyone's pretty much like up to the chest of the bigger bot next to them kind of thing. I do like that kind of scale. Looking at Megatron now with this sword, it just looks amazing. I mean, look at him, he looks badass. He's quite poseable as well. He stands quite well. He does quite a few poses. You can get those arms around across his chest as well, which is pretty cool. And let's have a look at the head sculpt. Very stoic. His chin's not big enough though, you know. A lot of guys, you'd be like, oh, where's the chin? But you know, it's still Megatron. You can see that's Megatron. The sculpt tonight is fantastic. The paint job. But the deal breaker for me is this. They're the eyes. Look at those ruby red eyes. Wonderful. Can't beat it. So let's go on to some more background, shall we? Like all tyrants, they always have a humble beginning, but with Megatron, that's an understatement. Megatron was born during the time of functionism, where your function is dictated by your alt mode and your place in society. So Megatron was a member of the lower class working in a mine under Nova Point. But this didn't dissuade him from his dreams. He would write poetry about his disgust by the caste-driven social rift between the classes that the government played carefully to achieve control. An idealist, Megatron once wrote his ideas of non-violence and a change of how things should be. It was here that his life was to change forever when he went with his friend to McAdam's new oil house. He was showing Impactor his latest work when a small bot with strange-looking eyebrows came crashing on top of their table. Turns out it was some police cadets who were bullying this little guy, so Impactor was having none of that, and he launched into the bullies who were killed during the brawl. Megatron didn't get involved because he was a pacifist. He doesn't believe in violence. But that didn't stop the police from arresting him and with Impactor on arrival and detained. By this time, Megatron's poetry had become quite popular in the area, and the Senate had picked that up. So when they found out they had Megatron in custody, the Senate sent one of their police officers on their payroll, Whirl, to silence him. Whirl beat Megatron to a pulp, enjoying the job as well. But before Whirl could finish it, another officer arrived to release the prisoner. Turns out, the new captain of the precinct had read Megatron's work, and even though he didn't agree with everything that was written, he knew that a bot who was articulate and as peace-loving could never get involved with ripping cadets' legs off and feeding them down a trash compactor. So he called the bartender at McAdams to confirm his hunch. On processing, Megatron met the new captain, who gave him his work back and released him. It was at this moment in time at this precise point in his life that Megatron finally realised that pacifism and ideas being discussed won't change anything. No. Megatron now knew that something else was needed. Over time, Megatron's work had circulated the underground across the planet and started the Decepticon movement. A name from the slogan, "You are being deceived," saying that the everyday bot who goes from day to day living his life is being played by the government and the truth is being withheld from him. Realising that to kill Megatron now would only make him a martyr, so the Senate decided to ship him off to the mining colony of Megatron. Here he met Terminus, an old bot who encouraged him to keep writing. He would proofread Megatron's writing and smuggle it off-world back to Cybertron. It was here that the Senate decided to involve themselves again to try and stem the flow of writing that Megatron was producing. And so they sent two agents, a psychopathologist named Freud and a neurosurgeon called Trepan, who was to alter Megatron's personality to stop the production at the source. But that same small bot with the strange looking eyebrows was in fact Freud's rival and walked in as they were about to start the procedure and stopped it. It was this experience that made Megatron fearful of neurosurgeons. To this day, he's still scared. Megatron was relocated after this to the mining outpost on C-12, seething with hate and frustration over what's happened to him and his friends. It finally reaches critical mass when Senator Decimus arrives to inform the miners that they won't be needed any longer, as the mining plant will go fully automated. This was not welcome news to the miners, as it would mean that they would have nowhere to go and no job. And as one brave worker spoke out, he was brutally murdered before them by a security officer under the senator's order. This brought the tension to breaking point, and as the senator tried to calm things down, a pickaxe comes hurtling out of nowhere and hits Decimus in the shoulder. It was Megatron. He had enough. No more! Security moved in, and it became a bloodbath as security forces opened fire on the miners. The head security officer, who killed the outspoken miner, attacks Megatron, but Megatron then loses control and smashes the security officer's head over and over until there's nothing left of his head but fuel-covered shards across the floor where his head was and all over Megatron's hands. This was his first kill, and amongst the anarchy around him, he just sat there, staring at his hands and took that life. Finally, as reinforcements arrived and secured the area, Megatron was so out of it, they had no problem with subduing him. But soon he escapes with two accomplices, Frenzy and Rumble. They take the ship that they were being transported in and fly to Kaon, where they went into hiding. Kaon is where the gladiatorial combat is fought, and it proves very popular in great demand in the underground. And he quickly rises through the ranks in his team and becomes a fan favourite, and very soon leads the team. Eventually, the bouts become so popular that recordings of the fight are sold worldwide, and it comes to the Senate's attention. It was at this point that an opportunistic senator called Ratbat sent his agent Soundwave to meet Megatron secretly to discuss a deal where he could provide Megatron and his team with upgrades for them to use in the coming bouts. This was Megatron and Soundwave's first meeting, and soon learned that Soundwave had mind-reading capabilities, and the fact that he treats his animal cassettes equally. Megatron asked Soundwave to read his mind, so he could really see what Megatron believed in. On reading his mind, Soundwave realises how dedicated Megatron is to equality, and so swears his allegiance to him alone, only being in the service of Ratbat at face value. Over time, using the gladiatorial bouts, Megatron started to build an army out of the strongest gladiators, and this is where the Seekers joined the Decepticons, along with Drift, who Megatron personally renamed him Deadlock. And finally, to enhance his army even further, Megatron approaches Senator Shockwave with the offer of resources for Shockwave to continue his mysterious experiments, in exchange for a combiner. But the Senate have still not made their move yet. So Megatron and Soundwave decide to make a declaration of intent that the Senate could not ignore and would have to come to Kaon to address this. The Decepticons allowed themselves to be captured, and they were all incarcerated at the government building in Kaon. But there were so many of them that the security forces were forced to use any and all rooms with lockable doors. This was Megatron's plan all along, so he could take the building from within and kill the Senate. On Senator Ratbat's orders, Soundwave was used, and Starscream informed the guard that he wanted to talk to the Senate about important information, like he was a turncoat. On arrival at the council chambers, Starscream drew out his weapons that were concealed within his arms, so he and the previously hidden Soundwave in his cassettes killed all the Senate members and released the prisoners. They armed the released Decepticons, and with Starscream giving Megatron a fusion cannon, the battle begins. During this time, Soundwave makes his move and shoots Senator Ratbat. He rips out his spark and places him in a cassette body. With both sides fighting, Sentinel Prime enters the fray, decked out in some kind of Apex armor. And at long last, Megatron finally faces off Prime as he towers over Megatron. But Megatron doesn't back down. Sentinel Prime unleashes the full power of his Apex armor and sends a gargantuous blast targeting Megatron's location. After the fallout, there's no sign of Megatron, so Prime searches out for him, with Hound being his spotter, but Megatron is waiting for him. In the right moment, strikes by throwing the Autobot scout that he found at him and using him as a missile, damaging Sentinel Prime's display on his arm. Megatron wastes no more time and lunges for Prime, taking him over the edge of the precipice. At the end, Megatron finally stands over the corpse of Sentinel Prime and orders the Seekers to take his carcass and drop it over the security force's position. The security force's second in command orders the fallback and heads out of the city. And finally, Kaon belongs to the Decepticons. So this is just the beginning. There's so much to cover, but we'll end it here for now. If you wish to read the stories that are covered here,
they are More Than Meets the Eye, issues 9, 27, 28, and 34. The Transformers Ongoing Series, issue 22, Robots in Disguise, issue 17, and issue 22, and finally Megatron Origins. And one thing I wanted to point out, which I forgot to do before, I mentioned about the chest on the front part of the tank, how it should be moulded differently, because what I want to see is a G2 coloration of this, but also that the front twists and then folds over into the chest that looks like Megatron. I think they could do a little bit of tweaking there at the front bit. I think they could pull that off really nice. I think it would look great though. I'm sure, even if we don't do the chest piece, I'm sure they're going to do a repaint for the G2.
This will be the standard formula for my reviews from now on. So if you like what you see, click the like button and comment below on what you like about this and what you don't like. So be sure to check out Iaconic Reviews, which is our podcast channel, where we've been going over the IDW run from the beginning, which incidentally began with Megatron Origins. And that's everything from here today. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, take care of yourselves and each other. Be good, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.